There was a time when even right-wing fiction understood on some level what made a man good. Decency still had to be performed, even by writers and audiences who privately resented it. The pulp paperbacks of the Cold War were wrapped in red, white, and blue propaganda. But under the wrapper, they carried moral DNA that came from the left. The authors might have preached capitalism, but their heroes live something closer to socialism. Take Jerry Ahern's The Survivalist series. On paper, it is everything the Reagan years wanted to believe about itself. Its protagonist, John Thomas Rourke, is a living archetype of Cold War virtue. Former doctor, former CIA operative, former anti-terrorist law enforcement trainer, a master marksman, a survival expert, the American Ubermensch, a paragon of competence in a world on fire. Ahern does not hide his ideology. Rourke praises the free market, lectures on the virtue of capitalism, and name drops Ayn Rand. On the surface, he is the perfect poster child for rugged individualism. Read carefully, and you see the contradiction that drives the whole character. Every act that defines John Rourke conflicts with the politics printed on the cover. He does not hoard. He does not act out of greed. He does not refuse help because someone cannot pay. He risks his life for strangers, protects the weak, teaches others to survive, and treats his skills like a public trust. Ahern wrote a man who talks like a capitalist and behaves like a socialist. He lives the ethics of mutual aid while calling it self-reliance. That contradiction is what made the old right-wing hero archetype work. The audience could tolerate the flag-waving rhetoric because the core values were still recognizably human. Those heroes embodied compassion, restraint, duty, and solidarity, even when the story insisted those traits were American rather than universal. The propaganda said capitalism made men moral, but the narrative kept proving that morality survived through cooperation. Readers did not love Rourke because he believed in the free market. They loved him because he did not leave people behind. That was the unspoken bargain of the Cold War imagination. The right needed its heroes to act leftist in order to remain likable. Even the pulp tough guys had to be protectors, not predators. They had to help the helpless, share their rations, and stand for principles bigger than profit. The ideology and the morality were in quiet conflict, and the morality kept winning on the page. Then something changed. The post-Reagan right, stripped of shame and conscience, stopped pretending to be decent. The mask fell away. What began as projection hardened into confession. The same movement that once wrote heroes like Rourke, selfless men who live by service, now glorifies cruelty, greed, and domination as virtues. They no longer borrow leftist morality to make their icons sympathetic. They celebrate the villain instead. Under Trump, the American right has started to resemble what its old villains used to be. They cheer for the man who hoards, lies, abandons the weak, and mocks suffering. They measure greatness not by service, but by how many people they can hurt without consequence. The archetype of the hero has been inverted. In the age of endarkenment, might no longer tries to launder itself through the language of righteousness. It wears the word right proudly. What has been lost is not only morality, it is narrative coherence. The old right-wing hero had a soul. He might wave the flag, but he also fed the hungry and defended the innocent. He lived inside a moral universe where power served purpose. Today's right-wing culture rejects that universe. It is not about principle. It is about appetite. They call it realism, but it is nihilism. John Rourke's retreat, the mountain bunker he builds in Georgia, says everything about who he really is. It is a refuge for his family, a staging ground for rescue missions, a place of rest between acts of service. He does not turn it into a private hoard while the world burns. He returns to it to recover so he can go back out and help others survive. The difference between isolation and responsibility is the dividing line between enlightenment and endarkenment. The irony is that Jerry Ahern, a man who believed he was writing a capitalist superhero, accidentally created the moral blueprint for a leftist saint. Rourke's greatness is not in his arsenal or his ideology. It is in his refusal to give up on humanity. His survivalism is not selfish. It is an act of faith that people are worth saving. That is what made him American in the truest sense. The belief that freedom meant duty, that strength meant service, that individualism only mattered when it protected the collective good. It was a late echo of an Enlightenment ideal in popular fiction, the idea that the strong exist to protect, not to rule. We have lost that moral grammar. The right no longer projects virtue onto its heroes because it no longer values virtue. Its protagonists are billionaires who break laws for sport, politicians for sale to the highest bidder, influencers who market cruelty as authenticity. They are the logical end of an ideology that confused freedom with indulgence. The American hero died when the right stopped needing goodness to make itself palatable, when it stopped even pretending that compassion was part of the deal.